The Arizona sun was unrelenting, pouring down on a quiet highway where a battered pickup truck had just sputtered to a stop. Javier, the man behind the wheel, pushed it off the road with trembling arms. His shirt clung to his back with sweat, his hands were raw from a long day of roofing in the desert heat, and his boots were worn thin. All he wanted was to get home before sunset. His little daughter, Lucia, would be waiting by the window, counting the minutes until his knock. Javier was an undocumented immigrant, a widowed father who had come to the U.S. chasing a fragile dream. Life hadn't been kind to him. He had lost his wife to illness, worked minimum-wage jobs that barely paid the rent, and carried the weight of a child born with a heart condition he couldn't afford to treat. As car after car sped past him, no one stopped. No one even looked his way. Until a black SUV pulled over. The window rolled down, and Javier's breath caught in his throat. The man in the driver's seat was none other than Donald J. Trump. Javier froze, unsure whether this was real or some strange dream. But there he was, former president, real estate mogul, and one of the most powerful men in America. Truck trouble? Trump asked casually, stepping out. Javier nodded. It died. Without a moment's hesitation, Trump waved at his driver to call for a tow truck. Then he turned back to Javier and handed him a bottle of cold water. You look like you've had a long day. Let me drive you home. Javier hesitated, but then he thought of Lucia. Home was still many miles away. So he got in. As the car drove through the desert landscape, Javier, in his broken English, opened up. He talked about working on roofs in blistering heat, about losing his wife, about raising Lucia alone, and how he prayed each night for a way to fix her fragile heart. Trump listened, quietly, attentively. For once, there were no cameras, no speeches, no politics. Just two men, one story. They pulled up to a worn-down trailer park, where children played barefoot in dirt and broken fences lined the dusty lots. And then, from one of those trailers, came Lucia, tiny, with eyes too big for her face and a medical monitor strapped under her dress. She ran to her father and hugged him tight, smiling up at Trump without knowing who he was, just that he was kind. Trump knelt down. What do you want to be when you grow up? He asked gently. Lucia looked shyly at her father, then back at the stranger. A doctor, she whispered. So I can fix hearts. Something in Trump's expression softened. He stood in silence for a moment, then nodded. That's the best answer I've heard in years. He didn't tweet about the encounter. He didn't call the press. But he made a few quiet phone calls that night. 2 days later, a van arrived at Javier's trailer. Inside were doctors from a private children's hospital in Phoenix. They had been sent to examine Lucia, free of charge. Full treatment, full care, all expenses paid. A week later, a brand new pickup truck with Javier's name on the registration rolled up outside his home. No flashy headlines. Just quiet, sincere help. But the story didn't stay hidden for long. Hospital staff, too moved to stay silent, began sharing what had happened. Word spread. Videos of Lucia playing, smiling, recovering from surgery made their way online. And when it was confirmed who had funded her care, people were shocked. Some wept. Even critics paused. At a community event a few months later, a reporter asked Trump directly why he did it. He looked out over the crowd and replied, "Sometimes, life introduces you to people who remind you what truly matters. That little girl's dream, to heal hearts, healed something in me too. It had nothing to do with politics. It was just the right thing to do." In the back of the room, Javier stood quietly, holding Lucia's hand. He didn't need to say anything. His eyes, filled with tears, spoke volumes. And so, a broken truck, a tired worker, a little girl with a big heart, and a man known more for power than kindness, together wrote a story that touched millions. Because when humanity takes the wheel over politics, the road can lead to something beautiful.